welcome to this deep dive. Okay, imagine this. You get the chance to build something totally new in software. From scratch. No old code, no legacy stuff weighing you down, just potential.
Yeah, that's the dream, right? That's Greenfield development.
Exactly. Now, mix that with collaborating strategically with really talented teams, but they're located across the globe.
So you're talking Greenfield plus offshore teams.
Right, and it's this combo that offers, incredible power, flexibility.
Yeah.
But let's be real, it definitely adds layers of complexity.
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive balancing act. On one hand, you've got this blank canvas, this freedom to use the latest tech, design exactly what you need from day one, build for scale. But then, yeah, you bring in the challenges of distance, time zones, maybe cultural differences. Getting this right, it's not just about code. It's like orchestrating a global effort from zero.
Totally. And if you do get it right, the potential is huge. We're talking tapping into global talent you might not find locally, maybe driving down costs quite a bit.
Yeah, potentially speeding things up with that continuous development cycle.
Ending up with a system that's modern, scalable, because you built it that way from the ground up. But how do you actually navigate the tricky parts? How do you plan something this ambitious so it actually succeeds?
Well, that's what we've been digging into. We're going to pull out the key insights, maybe a few things you hadn't thought about.
Okay.
Think of this as your essential guide to laying that foundation correctly. So settle in. We'll walk through the critical steps.
Sounds good.
And hey, if deep dives like this one help you sort of cut through the noise on complex topics, make sure you're following or subscribed. That way you won't miss out on future ones.
Definitely. Okay, let's start right at the beginning. We keep saying Greenfield. What does that really mean in software? Why is it so different?
Okay, so think of it like building a house on completely empty land, totally open field.
Right.
You're not renovating an old place, you're not adding an extension. That would be more like brownfield development.
Dealing with the existing structure, the old plumbing.
Exactly. The quirks, the constraints, those legacy systems we always talk about. With Greenfield, you're building a brand new system, a new application, totally from the ground up. No old code, no existing infrastructure you have to connect to.
Okay. So the key isn't just new software. It's new software with zero baggage.
Precisely. It's the absence of those legacy constraints. And that gives you immense freedom. Like one of the biggest pluses is using modern technologies right away.
Because you're not stuck trying to make some cutting-edge microservice thing work with, a database from the 90s.
Exactly. You get to pick the latest frameworks. You can adopt modern architectures like microservices or event-driven systems, things designed for scale, for resilience, go cloud native from day one. And this isn't just about using cool new toys. It actually speeds up innovation, improves quality, because you're building on stable, well-supported stuff. You're not wasting half your time fighting compatibility issues.
Right, which kind of leads to the other side of that coin, no dependency on those outdated systems.
Which is huge. I mean, legacy systems often drag along technical debt, security holes. Sometimes nobody even knows how parts of it work anymore.
Yeah, the original developers are long gone.
Right. So avoiding that mess means cleaner code that's easier to maintain. Your team can actually move faster because they're not constantly making compromises to fit new stuff into an old design.
And because you're starting fresh, you can bake in scalability right from the beginning.
Yeah, this is often one of the biggest drivers for going Greenfield, especially for ambitious projects. You can literally design the architecture thinking about future growth, handling millions of users, massive amounts of data, tons of features.
So you can plan for like horizontal scaling.
Yeah.
Adding more servers easily.
Exactly. Instead of trying to squeeze more performance out of one big old box, you build a system that can flex and grow with the business.
So you avoid that nightmare scenario a few years later where your user base suddenly explodes and the whole thing just collapses.
You hope so. That's the plan anyway. Build it right from day one. But and this is really important, this freedom isn't free reign.
Wow.
Building from scratch, especially when you add the offshore element we're discussing, well, it demands meticulous planning, crystal clear documentation, really consistent communication.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Greenfield sounds powerful, but yeah, it needs discipline because there's no existing structure to guide you.
Yeah.
Now, let's bring in that offshore piece more directly. Why take something that already needs such careful planning and add the complexity of working with a team in a different country? What's the upside there?
Well, it might seem like adding complexity on top of complexity, but companies do it for some really compelling strategic reasons.
Especially with Greenfield.
And I'm guessing number one is usually cost.
Almost always a major factor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cost efficiency. Development costs can just be significantly lower in some regions compared to, say, Silicon Valley or London.
Right.
And those savings can be substantial. You can reinvest that money elsewhere, maybe even pump it back into making the software even better. Okay, cost is a big one. What else?
Access to a much bigger global talent pool. Think about it. For a greenfield project using maybe some cutting-edge AI or a specific cloud tech, you might need really specialized skills.
Skills that are hard to find locally or super expensive if you do.
Exactly. Going offshore just opens up the world. You can potentially find the perfect experts for your specific needs wherever they happen to be.
Okay, so talent access makes sense. What else?
There's the potential for faster turnaround times if you structure it right with teams in different time zones.
The follow the sun model.
Kind of, yeah. You can potentially get close to a 2-4-7 development cycle. As one team signs off, maybe hands over their work, another team can pick it up.
So the code is basically always being worked on somewhere in the world.
That's the ideal scenario. And if you manage it well, this continuous progress can really accelerate your delivery timeline. Get your new product out faster.
And what about scaling the team itself?
Oh, huge benefit. Offshore partners often give you flexibility to scale up or down pretty quickly. Need 20 more developers for a big feature push.
Yeah.
A good partner can often make that happen way faster than trying to hire all those people locally. And then maybe later, you need to scale back down for a maintenance phase. That's usually more flexible too. Gives you business agility.
Okay, so cost, global talent, potential speed, and team flexibility. Those are pretty strong arguments. But like we said, adding offshore means you have to deal with communication hurdles, cultural nuances, coordination.
Absolutely. The pitfalls are very real if you don't manage it proactively. Those benefits we just listed, they only happen if you have deliberate, structured planning and execution.
Right. Okay, let's dive into that planning then. Combining Greenfield's blank slate challenge with offshore's remote complexity means planning is everything. The sources we looked at lay out some key steps. Where do you even start planning one of these things with an offshore team?
You absolutely have to start with the foundation. Step 1. Define crystal clear project objectives. I mean, absolutely non-negotiable.
Okay.
If the core goals are fuzzy, the project is basically set up to fail from the beginning. And that gets amplified like crazy when your team is thousands of miles away.
Why is that clarity so much more critical with offshore? Is it just the distance?
It's a lack of osmosis, really. You lose those casual hallway chats, the quick whiteboard sessions you can just pop into. The offshore team relies much more heavily on the formal stuff, the documents, the planned calls. If the objectives are vague, they're kind of left guessing. That means wasted effort, building the wrong thing. It's bad news.
Okay, so what specifically needs to be nailed down in these objectives?
You need to really articulate the core business problems you're solving. Not just build a new CRM, but reduce lead processing time by 30% or increase customer retention by 15%. Specifics. And crucially, set concrete key performance indicators, KPIs.
How you'll actually measure success.
Exactly. How will you know quantitatively if this project actually worked? You need that defined upfront.
Okay, KPIs. What about the actual features?
Document them meticulously. Seriously. Make a clear list of the absolute must-haves for version 1 versus the nice-to-haves for later. Write clear user stories, map out the workflows, who uses this, what do they need to achieve step by step, and define your expected timelines and milestones. Break the whole thing down into phases or sprints or modules, whatever makes sense, but give them clear deadlines.
So everyone, no matter where they are, knows the what, the why, the how it should work, and the when.
Precisely. Doing this work up front just removes so much ambiguity. It helps the offshore team really understand the context, the purpose, and it gives you a solid base for realistic planning and estimation. Skipping this, it's like, yeah, trying to build a custom house with no blueprints, disaster waiting to happen.
Okay, step 1, nail the objectives. Makes perfect sense. Once you know what you want to build, what's the next really crucial step?
Step 2 is potentially make or break. Select the right offshore development team. We talked about accessing global talent, but critically, you need a team that's actually equipped for greenfield work.
Not just any offshore team will do.
Definitely not. Building from scratch requires a different skill set, a different mindset, than just maintaining an existing system or adding a few features. Some teams are great at the latter, but might struggle with the ambiguity and architectural demands of greenfield.
Okay, so what should you be looking for? What questions should you ask when you're evaluating potential partners?
First up, their technical expertise. Do they have proven experience with the modern frameworks, the tools, the methodologies you plan to use? Can they actually show you how they build systems that are scalable, secure, maintainable? Don't just look at a list of technologies on their website.
Right, you need proof they can build well, not just that they've heard of React or AWS.
Exactly. Look closely at their portfolio and any case studies. Have they done similar Greenfield projects before? Can they show you examples? Do they have experience in your industry if that's relevant?
And absolutely dig into client testimonials and ask for references. Talk to their past clients if you can. Get the real story. Were they reliable? Was the quality good? How was the communication?
That sounds like essential homework.
It really is. And finally, dig into their communication and project management processes. How do they actually run things day to day? How do they do sprint planning? What tools do they use for tracking tasks, bugs, progress? How do they flag issues? Their process needs to be transparent and feel like it fits with how you want to work.
So doing all that due diligence helps ensure you pick a partner who's not just technically capable for a blank slate project, but also someone you can actually collaborate with effectively across the distance.
Precisely. It sets the stage for success.
Okay, speaking of collaboration across distance, communication. It always comes up as maybe the biggest challenge with Offshore. And on a Greenfield project where there are probably more unknowns, how do you make sure that communication is really strong? Yeah, that leads straight into step 3. Establish robust communication channels and cadence. Because you don't have that physical proximity, you have to be super proactive. You almost need to sort of over-communicate.
Over-communicate.
Mm.
Does that just mean endless meetings?
A slight laugh. Hopefully not. It's not necessarily more communication, but more structured and intentional communication. Things like daily stand-ups are absolutely vital.
Okay.
And ideally, do them over video call. Seeing faces helps pick up nonverbal cues. Keep them short, focused. What did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? Any blockers? Surfacing those blockers immediately is critical. Delaying that by even a day in a remote setup can really slow things down.
And having the right tools must be key too, right?
Oh, essential. Your collaboration tools become your virtual office space. So you need something like Slack or Microsoft Teams for the quick chats, the real-time questions. You need Jira or Asana or something similar for tracking tasks, issues, progress in a structured way.
Right, so everyone can see what Niche is doing.
Exactly. And something like Confluence or a shared wiki for documentation. Everyone needs access to that single source of truth.
And I guess for Greenfield, where the design is evolving, that documentation isn't just nice to have, it's like fundamental.
It's absolutely paramount. Clear documentation is the anchor for the whole project. Your requirements, user stories, API specs, architecture diagrams, wireframes, all of it needs to be documented clearly, kept up to date, and easily accessible to everybody. It basically replaces those spontaneous chats around a whiteboard.
Got it. Ensures everyone's working off the same page, literally.
Yeah. You can't afford misunderstandings when you're building from scratch remotely.
Okay, so nail the objectives, find the right partner, set up really solid communication structures. What about the actual dev process? Is there a particular methodology that works best for building something new with a distributed team like this?
Yeah. Step 4 is typically to adopt agile methodologies. Frameworks like Scrum or maybe Kanban are generally really well suited for Greenfield offshore projects.
Why Agile specifically for this combo?
Well, agile is built around flexibility and iteration. That's perfect for Greenfield, where you're likely to learn things as you go and requirements might evolve.
Okay.
Plus, agile provides transparency. Those short delivery cycles sprints give you frequent visibility into progress, which is super valuable for managing remote teams. You're not waiting months to see if things are on track.
You get that regular checkpoint. How do you make Agile work smoothly across time zones and distance?
You really need to implement the standard agile practices, but with discipline. Things like sprint planning are key, making sure everyone is clear on the work prioritized for the next couple of weeks. Regular retrospectives are also critical.
The sessions where the team reflects on how things went?
Exactly. It's a chance for the distributed team to talk openly about what's working well in their process, their communication, and what needs tweaking. It's that built-in mechanism for continuous improvement of how you work together.
So you're constantly fine-tuning the collaboration itself.
You have to. And you need robust, continuous feedback loops. Stakeholders can't just disappear for months. Regular demos, usually at the end of each sprint, are essential.
So people actually see working software.
Yeah. Let them see it, touch it, provide feedback based on something real. This allows for course corrections early and often. It dramatically reduces the risk of spending months building the wrong thing.
That frequent feedback seems absolutely critical when there's no existing system to compare against. You need that constant reality check.
Totally. It de-risks the whole endeavor significantly.
Okay, makes sense. Now, since we are building from scratch, that technical foundation is obviously make or break for the long term. What needs special attention on the architecture side?
Yeah, that brings us to step 5. Ensure robust technical architecture. Getting this right at the start, is fundamental for everything that follows: scalability, performance, how easy it is to maintain later on. Building on a shaky foundation, well,
Yeah, the whole thing eventually crumbles.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the big architectural calls you need to make early?
Well, a major one these days is leveraging scalable cloud solutions. Building on platforms like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, it just gives you the elasticity, the global reach you need for modern apps. Designing your system to be cloud native from day one simplifies so much down the line.
Avoids managing your own servers and data centers.
Exactly. Huge headache removed. Then there's that critical decision: microservices versus monolithic design. This is a big one.
Yeah, it seems like everyone talks about microservices now.
They do, and they offer great benefits like modularity, independent scaling, letting different teams work on different services with potentially different tech. But a monolith can sometimes be faster to build initially, especially for simpler apps.
So it's a trade-off.
It's a significant trade-off with long-term implications. You need to really think about your specific project's complexity, your team's skills, your future growth plans. There's no single right answer, but you need to make a conscious choice.
Okay, what else architecturally?
Regardless of monolith or microservices, setting up CI/CD pipelines, continuous integration, and continuous deployment is pretty much essential now.
Automating the build, test, deploy process.
Exactly. Automate it all. This ensures your code quality is checked constantly, automatically, and allows you to release updates frequently and reliably. That's vital for keeping up momentum with Agile and a remote team.
So getting this technical foundation solid upfront is basically an investment that saves massive pain and cost later on trying to re-architect everything.
Absolutely. It's like choosing, reinforced concrete versus mud bricks for your house foundation. You want the strong stuff from day one.
Okay, now, with teams spread out, building something totally new, how do you make sure the quality stays high? How do you prevent bugs from creeping in everywhere?
That's step 6. Implement rigorous quality assurance. And the key word there is rigorous. QA can't be something tacked on at the end. It has to be baked into the entire development process from start to finish.
How do you embed QA effectively when the team is remote?
Automation is your best friend here. Prioritize automated testing heavily. Unit tests, integration tests, end-to-end UI tests, automate as much as makes sense and run them constantly as part of your CI pipeline.
So you catch regressions, things breaking unexpectedly really early?
Exactly. It's your safety net. Manual testing just can't keep up with the pace of development, especially on a Greenfield project. Automation is the only way to really scale your QA efforts alongside development.
Makes sense. What else besides automated tests?
Enforce strict code reviews. Have other developers review code before it gets merged into the main branch. This catches bugs, sure, but also enforces consistency, shares knowledge across the team.
Gets more eyes on the code.
Yep. And consider pair programming, even remotely. It can be really effective for tackling tricky problems or even just for onboarding new team members and sharing best practices. And don't forget performance and security testing. These aren't just pre-launch activities. You should be running benchmarks, doing security audits throughout the development lifecycle. Building security and performance in from the start is way easier than trying to bolt it on later.
So proactive QA throughout the process minimizes bugs, leads to a better user experience for your brand new system, and builds confidence in its stability right from launch.
Quality isn't something you test in at the end. It has to be built in from the beginning.
Right. Okay, final step. You've done all this planning. The project is underway. How do you keep everything on track day to day, week to week? How do you spot problems early, especially those specific challenges that come with the Greenfield offshore combo?
That's the crucial ongoing work of step 7. Monitor progress and mitigate risks. You need constant visibility and a systematic way to spot potential issues before they blow up. Offshore projects with the time zones, communication lags, they just have specific risks you need to manage proactively.
What are the key things you should be tracking?
You need to track project health KPIs consistently. Things like sprint velocity, is the team delivering work at a predictable pace. Code commit frequency, test coverage percentages, defect rates, maybe burn down charts.
Looking at the actual data, not just gut feeling.
Exactly. Data helps cut through assumptions about progress. You also need proactive risk management. Keep a living risk register. What could possibly go wrong?
Like scope creep or requirements changing.
Yep. Or a key team member leaving, unexpected technical hurdles, dependencies on other teams or systems. Log these potential issues. Think about their likelihood, their potential impact. Then, crucially, review that register regularly and have mitigation plans ready. Don't just wait for the crisis to hit.
So anticipate problems, don't just react to them.
That's the goal. Also, be very deliberate about time zone management. Plan for those essential overlapping hours for real-time collaboration when you need it. But for everything else, really lean into asynchronous tools and good documentation so work can continue smoothly even when teams aren't online simultaneously. And finally, manage dependency tracking carefully. Especially if you have multiple teams or modules, visualize how things connect, who depends on what, so you don't end up with bottlenecks.
So this structured monitoring and risk management helps keep the project aligned with the goals. It lets you spot deviations early and deal with them systematically, which sounds doubly important when you can't just walk down the hall to figure out what's stuck.
It's all about maintaining control and foresight, even when things are complex and distributed.
Okay, wow. So we've really mapped out that journey, starting with crystal clear goals, finding the absolute right partner, setting up rock-solid communication, using Agile for flexibility, building that robust technical foundation, baking in quality from day one, and then constantly monitoring progress and managing risks. That feels like a solid playbook.
It covers the critical steps for navigating this exciting, but yeah, definitely challenging world of greenfield projects with offshore teams.
And it seems finding that right partner is woven through all of these steps, isn't it?
It really is. And, the source material we looked at, it actually highlights that aspect, pointing to a company like WeblineIndia as an example of a partner well-suited for this kind of work. They mention their long experience over 26 years and a track record that seems to hit those points we discussed. Expertise in modern tech, transparent communication, proven results, cost-effective scaling.
Yeah, and drawing from what the source says about them, they put their own capabilities forward pretty directly. We specialize in custom software, mobile and web apps, AML, and of course, offshore development.
Right, and that kind of focused experience is often exactly what you need to successfully manage the complexities of building something brand new with a remote team.
So planning a greenfield software project with an offshore team, it's definitely a big strategic move, but it's a potentially powerful way to build something cutting edge, leveraging global talent and efficiency.
Absolutely. And by really focusing on these steps we've walked through, clarity, the right partner, communication, agile, solid architecture, rigorous quality, constant monitoring, organizations can really tap into those offshore benefits while building a modern, scalable solution successfully.
It's about setting yourself up not just for a successful launch, but for future growth and innovation too, building that strong foundation.
Exactly. So maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on as we wrap up. With technology getting more complex and teams becoming more distributed globally, what do you think is the single most important quality you or your team needs to cultivate to really succeed in these challenging, high-potential greenfield offshore projects? Is it adaptability, communication mastery, deep technical foresight, something else?
It's a good question. Something to definitely ponder.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We really hope these insights into planning greenfield offshore projects have been useful.
Yeah, and if you found this helpful, maybe share it with a colleague or friend who might be grappling with these kinds of projects.
And please, do make sure you're following or subscribe to the deep dive wherever you get your podcasts or audio. That way you won't miss our future explorations where we break down complex topics into hopefully actionable insights.
And if you are thinking about a greenfield project and looking into potential partners, you could check out the company mentioned in the source, WeblineIndia.
Yeah, you can find their website at WeblineIndia.com. That's WeblineIndia.com.
Or you can email them directly at info@WeblineIndia.com.
Follow us for updates, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.